All right, we move on to the last aspect of the project writing, which has to do with the reference section. Referencing, as it were, in the project is of two types. This reference section is a compilation of all the work you have referred to, the references you had during the write-up, that is from the introduction to the literature review, methodology, and even during the results and discussion. The references you made there, or you interacted with, the materials you interacted with, the reference section now is where you compile, do a compilation. It is mostly required, especially for us here in chemistry, that this is done in alphabetical order. One of the key points in referencing, in short, the major key point in referencing is consistency. From the very first reference you write, you will have to ensure that the way you put your comma, the way you put all other punctuations, how the year comes as the year of the paper or the reference, it should be the same as every other one. You have 100 references. You must ensure that all of them are written in exactly the same way in terms of punctuation, and as I said, they should all be consistent. We use alphabetical order in this case. Now, I'll quickly refer to the in-text references. In-text references refer to the reference you do inside the project, right? And as I said, these are what you now extract, and then you have it as your reference section. There are a few things you need to know about that. For a particular material, you may have one author as a sole author. You can have two authors and can have more than two authors. Maybe 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, sometimes even 10 or 20. How you represent that as in the text is such that if you have one author or a sole author, you write just the surname of the author, put a comma, and then you write the year of that material. If you have a sole author, you just write the name, the surname of the author. If, for instance, Daniel Obo is the author, we expect that the first name should be Daniel, Obo is the last name. So when you want to reference that material, you just say Obo, 2024. That's a sole author of a paper. If you now have two authors as being the only authors for that paper or for that material, you write the surnames of the authors. I have seen cases where students still attach initials. You don't attach initials. So if it is Obo and Ezekiel that wrote the material or that authored the material, you just write Obo and Ezekiel, then comma 2024. So when you have a sole author, you just write the surname of the author and you put the year. Of course, put it in bracket. And then if you have two authors, write the surnames of the authors in the order that they appear anyway. The first author, write the surname, and the second author. Then if you now have more than two authors, you will only write the surname of the first author and then now put et al, E-L-E-T-A-L, E-T-A-L, and it is always written in italics because it's an adaptation. It is not an English word. E-T-A-L. It means and others. So if you had maybe 6 authors and the first author there is Okonkwo, you write Okonkwo et al. Immediately after the et al, you put a full stop and a comma. Then you write the year before you close the bracket. So you can have Okonkwo et al. 2024. Before 2024, you have full stop, comma, and then you close the bracket. Okonkwo et al., full stop, comma, 2024, close the bracket. So these are the three representations that you can have. Sole author, two authors, more than two authors. You only use that et al. When you have more than two authors. Is first author and others. That is the et al. Now, that does not imply that when you are now writing, compiling the references in the reference section, that if you have more than two authors, you write the two and still put et al. Some students mistake that for the in-text references. You don't write et al. At the reference section. If you have 10 persons as authors, you must list their names. And it is done in such a way that you write the surname, and then you put a comma, then you write the initials. For instance, if you have Okonkwo as the surname, you write Okonkwo, you put a comma, and then the initials, if it is BA, for instance, you write B, full stop, A, full stop, right, as initials. Then having finished with that, you now put a comma, and you go to the next author. Write the surname, initials, put a comma. When you are about writing, after writing the penultimate author, the last, second to the last author, the one but last author, after writing that, you don't need to put a comma at the end of the initials. You now write and, then you write the last author. Write the first author, followed by the others, then the second to the last, like Okonkwo, comma, B dot A as the initials, then and the last author. That is for the reference section. Having done that, now put the year in bracket, and then the title of the paper or the material. Most of the time we refer to journal articles, so I'll focus on that. But sometimes you still have to refer to some books. There's a way you write that you reference a book or a chapter in a book. But since journal articles are more in the references, you write the authors, and then before the last author, you put an and, then put the year in bracket, and put a full stop. After that full stop, you write the title of the journal. Phytochemical screening and antimicrobial activity of a mandolin species, for instance. That's hypothetical, but that's the title. Haven't done that, so put a full stop, and then write the name of the journal, Nigerian Journal of Applied Sciences. Sometimes, or most times, it is required that you write that name of the journal, Nigerian Journal of Applied Sciences, in italics. Write in italics, but the problem that arises from them is that immediately after the name of the journal, you are supposed to write the volume of the journal, and if there's an issue, you put the issue in bracket, and then a column, and then you put the pages. Most of the time, since you are expected to put the name of the journal in italics, some students just run it through, such that even the volume, the pages will not be in italics. That spoils the whole thing. So when you are doing project, it's the time to be very, very serious in the sense that you put your attention in what you are doing. If you make any mistake like that, some volumes and page numbers are in italics, others are not, then that inconsistency comes up. And once somebody reads that, it might just take you as not being serious. I think having done this, you should have been prepared, properly prepared for a presentation. The next aspect we are going to talk about, or we'll just highlight, because it's a major session, probably in our next presentation, we'll talk about it. Is the presentation itself, the key words in presentation. I'll just highlight some so that you have a foretaste of what will come up later on. The presentation itself for the seminar. Having talked about dressing, the next thing to talk about is the presentation, ability to present what you have done. It is very important. Both your slides, the PowerPoint slides, which should be more graphic. When I use the word graphic, I mean it should not be text heavy. Most of the things you want to say should be summarized in pictures. That's what I mean by graphics. So if you have maybe 10 slides to present, we shouldn't have more than, the sentences should just be, you should have points, bullet points, and then from the bullet points you present the point, you analyze the point, you talk about the point, you actually speak to your slides. You should avoid a situation where you put text on the board or on the screen and then start reading. It is very boring. It is actually not acceptable that you are reading to your examiners. Sometimes they will ask you, do you think we cannot read? You could have just just presented it on the board and then we'll read it and then clap for you. That won't make a good presentation. You try and use pictures more than text, and then that means you will rehearse your slides over and over again before you come to the stage. Don't hurry and come for that presentation. And that brings me to the point of preparation. The date for seminar is always announced far ahead of time. So it's expected that before the day of the seminar, you would have been prepared such that you can rehearse the slides either before your colleagues or even before your supervisor. You don't need the supervisor to call you for a mock presentation. If you are ready, you can tell your supervisor that you are ready for a mock presentation, and he or she will be very, very happy to sit with you and then listen to your presentation. And if there are areas where corrections should be made, it will be done before the presentation. And I assure you, you will definitely come out with a very good and nice presentation. That and all that I've mentioned earlier, we should give you a good score at the end of the day. So by way of recap, remember that this seminar will be 33%, your supervisor score will be taken as 33%, and that of a standard examiner will be taken as 33%. So if they score you at the seminar, even if it is 5 persons that score you, those 5 also will be put together and divided by 5 to get the score for the seminar. And so I expect that you should be able to get a 70 or above from your supervisor, something above 70 from the seminar, above 70 from the external examiner, and then at the end of the day you come up with an A. And that is the major point of this presentation, that when you are able to put all the square pegs in their very square holes by way of learning the tips we have mentioned here, you should have an A. I wish you all the best, and if there are questions, you can send them to us, and we'll, through the same channel, we'll answer them. Thank you very much for your time. We'll see you in the next video.